discussion on municipal liability laws came to a conclusion last week. Now, we move on to a new series, Contract Law. Today's main focus will be on consumer protection and what to do when purchasing a new or used car. Who else but our attorney and legal correspondent, David Lesch, joins us once again to break down this topic, and it is an issue of concern for a lot of people.
Absolutely. You know, I'm excited about this new contractual obligation series. We're going to be covering a whole gamut of topics, including prenups, the contracts you sign before you get married, to dating websites, to the just basic contract that you enter into when you have someone come to your house and fix your refrigerator or fix something else. What we're really talking about is contracting for goods and services. The first part of the series, we're going to talk more about goods, and those are covered by the consumer protection statutes, and that's really what we're going to get into. So many things are covered by the consumer protection statutes, it could take me a year to go over all of them. So I'm going to try and pick the topics that are near and dear to the usual Bronxite, and we're going to start today with automobile purchases. That's new and used automobiles, which are covered by the general business law, which is also known as the lemon law, the new lemon law and the old lemon law. So let's start with a purchase of a new vehicle, okay? So you purchase a new car, and what happens within a couple of weeks, you start driving it, and it just doesn't seem to be working properly. You give it a couple more days, same thing happens, and you bring it back to the dealer. And the dealer holds it and holds it and holds it and gives it back to you, and the same thing happens. And same thing happens again. Now you say to the dealer, look, I want you to get me a new car, and the dealer says, no, we're not getting you a new car. What are your legal rights? This happens all the time.
Right.
Here's the situation. If you buy a new car and you give the dealer at least 4 attempts, this is by statute, 4 attempts to fix the vehicle, and they're not able to do so, or they've had the vehicle for at least 30 days, and it doesn't mean 30 days continuously, just 30 days, okay? It doesn't have to be in a row. Or you've given them the car, and they've had it for 20 days to fix what's called a substantial defect. One of those 3 things happen. Then you're entitled to a comparable car. Now, what's comparable in the law is always changing.
Right.
It depends on the circumstances. But from what I usually see, that if one of these 3 things happen, and you haven't had the car very, very long, we're not talking about 6 months or a year, maybe a couple of months, you will get a new car. You're obligated to get a new car, and that's under the new car lemon law, which is General Business Law 198.
Did this just come out?
No, this has been on the books for a while.
Okay.
In New York. This has been on the books for a while. Now, continuing with the new car theme, is sometimes people purchase a new part for a vehicle. They may have a used car, but we'll get into that in a second, but we're talking about a new part. This happens all the time, where you get a warranty when you buy a new part. It's a new service warranty many times. Only 20% of people who purchase the new warranties for their car for a new part that they purchase ever use them. And of those 20%, from what I see, many times they end up having to pay more to get the part replaced anyway, because the part usually is not in production by the time they decide that they want to change the muffler or whatever it is that they purchase. Well, there is a law on the books that guarantees you the right to have that part replaced that you purchase, assuming you have this warranty, and you do not have to spend the extra money to replace whatever it is that you purchased for your vehicle, if it was a new part. Many times the dealerships say, well, yes, you know, or a manufacturer says, well, yes, you bought this from us and we gave you a warranty and it's not working, but now that part doesn't exist, so you'll have to pay extra for us to get the new. It doesn't work that way. So you're protected in that way. Let's move into the used cars now, okay? And that's the original lemon law.
Which are what a lot of Americans are going for these days.
Certainly, you know, most people who can't afford to buy a new car are moving into the area of trying to buy a used car. 2 different types of purchases. There's one where you purchase it from your neighbor or somebody that you find on Craigslist or someplace else. And then there's the used car that you buy from the dealer. That's the one we're talking about. When you're talking about a used car from somebody that you know or just somebody from the neighborhood or somebody else, well, that's a buyer beware. You buy it as is. Unless there's fraud, unless they specifically tell you that something's working when it's not, then you're dealing with a fraud situation. You're dealing with what's called buyer beware. All right?
And most of those end up in small claims.
Small claims court, and you're usually not going to be successful, because it's buyer beware. If you're going to buy a used car from somebody and you don't really know the person, you should be smart enough to know to take the car to a mechanic or somebody to take a look at it before you purchase it. We're not talking about that. We're talking about you buy a used car from a dealer, pre-owned cars, right? You hear about this all the time. Okay, now that's covered by the old lemon law. And what that basically says that if you have an odometer reading of less than 36,000 miles, okay, you get a 90-day warranty, or you get 4,000 miles, whichever comes first, time to bring that car back and have your money returned. Now, what does that mean? That means if you have less than 36,000 miles on your car, and within 90 days, or 4,000 miles, whichever is first, it is not working the way you wanted it to work, you bring it back to the dealer, and they'll take it back, and they'll give you your money back, as long as you've given them a chance to cure. What does that mean? They have to have the right to be able to take the vehicle and fix it for you. Okay? What's reasonable in terms of a time to cure changes depending on what the circumstances of the vehicle is. But you do have that warranty, and most people don't know that. Most people buy a used car from a dealer, and they drive it for like 2 months, and stuff's not working, and they're thinking, you know what, they're not going to give me my money back. Well, they will give you your money back, so long as you give them a right to try and fix it.
Now, in the interim, when you're talking about you're taking the car back, rental cars, they talk about that. What happens? Are they to provide you transportation?
Usually when you buy a new car, okay, there is an agreement when you purchase the new car that if they take your car back, they will provide you with a rental car or something else during that time. But that's not so for a used car unless it's specifically in the contract. So you have to make sure in the contract that lays out exactly what your obligations are during the time they're allowed to keep the car. Now remember, this is very, very important. You can't drive the car for an extended period of time with the defect and then bring it back and say, I want you to repair it or give me a new car. You have only a certain amount of time to bring it back, because if you're driving it, the court assumes that whatever it was that was wrong with the car was fixed, either on its own or you fixed it or something else. So you can't drive it for 4 or 5 months, then bring it back and say, hey, now I want a comparable car. I bought a used car from you. It doesn't work that way. Finally, very quickly, I know I don't have much time. Where do you go? You go to small claims court. You can sue up to $5,000, and you need to bring 2 written estimates many times to show that there's something wrong with the vehicle. Not just one mechanic, but 2 mechanics, 2 different estimates to show that whatever it is that you said it was wrong is wrong, because 2 different auto body places are vouching for you. You could always bring a mechanic yourself to small claims court, but most people won't do that. Costs too much money to pay a mechanic to come, and good luck getting somebody to come. So basically you get these 2 written estimates. But the best thing to do, if you purchase a new or used vehicle and you think there's an issue, just go right back to the dealer, let them try and cure the defect, go to Google, take a look at the new lemon law and the old lemon law, or used lemon law, and it'll lay out your rights. Not very complicated. You don't need an attorney, and if push comes to shove and you really have a problem, you can always go to the Bronx County Bar Association, walk in there, say, look, I'm having an issue, and they could find you a local attorney.
In the court system, are they pretty pro-consumer on this issue?
Very pro-consumer, especially in economies like this. Those consumer protection statutes which we're going to hit during the next 3 to 6 weeks, you're going to see that the court system does bend over backwards to institute, or should I say, to uphold the statutes that the legislatures put forward to protect consumers, and that is the general business law usually. When you're dealing with these automobile statutes, you got the Vehicle Traffic Law, the Universal Commercial Code. It's all the same thing. You're really talking about good common sense to make sure that you're not taken as a consumer.
All right, Attorney David Lesch, thank you so much.
See you next week.
Coming up on Bronx Legal.
Bronx Legal, we're thinking about possibly changing the name so it's more of a generic title now that the show is being seen throughout New York City. So we're working on it, but for now we're still Bronx Legal with David Lesch.
All righty. See you in a few seconds. David Lesch, you can catch him here as always on Bronx Television. Check your local listings to find out exactly when. What time? Tell him what time.
6:30 Tuesday nights.
There you go. You don't have to check your local listings. Check with David. He's right here.